Having helped host the R Anime Awards the past couple of years, I've had the pleasure of experiencing some, you could say, unique moments. The first year we did the livestream, technical difficulties led to Alexander being stuck in a loop, saying, "Every show has to have an endgame," over and over, much to chat's amusement and my chagrin.
Every show has to have...
Yeah, we couldn't all agree on an eighth
an
antagonist
endgame.
that we all actually thought was deserving
show
of being on
has
the
to
list,
have
and we didn't
an
just want to
endgame.
fill it up to get 8.
We had some similarly quirky moments this year, like when Hayasaka drastically changed appearance, and for best supporting character in a dramatic role. Here are your winners. That is not, that's Erwin Smith, that's not Ai Hayasaka, by the way. Anyway, or witnessing Arcada's utter disbelief at our results. Hi, Arcada.
Oh, hey there.
But I have to say, the most impactful one must be unveiling Anime of the Year. It was like watching a dam in a torrential downpour, straining against all the built-up anticipation 4 long hours had wrought, just knowing it was about to burst. And burst it did, unleashing with it a mixture of disbelief, confusion, and above all else, immediate skepticism. Hugtto Precure? Winning against powerhouses like Attack on Titan, Mob Psycho, and Vinland Saga? Had anyone even heard of it? Almost immediately, the subreddit thread was flooded with comments about how the result was so obviously biased, asking where we could find all these teenage girls to make up the AO2I jury, and many, many unsolicited suggestions at how we could prevent something like this from ever happening again. Not to say there weren't supportive and nice comments, but never in my life have I been so disappointed by the amount of vitriol the result received. I mean, I know awards are supposed to be salty, but this is ridiculous. Especially because even disregarding my own personal feelings towards the series, I think the fact that these awards allows for this kind of result to be its greatest strength. First of all, jurors are selected and sorted into juries completely based on a blind application. You're chosen based on just how well you can articulate your thoughts, how much time you have to cram shows into your brain, and where you want to be placed. The application is posted months before the awards start and is open to everyone, meaning if you want your voice to be heard, all you need to do is put in the work. Show after show is systematically considered, watched, and discussed for months on end. Almost none of the AO2I jury had even heard of Hugtto coming into the awards, and therein lies the power of the system. You just need one person advocating for a show to bring a good amount of attention, and that attention can snowball if you're able to make your case. And considering the result, I'm guessing that case was made. Look, I'm sorry some beloved shows got placed under what on the surface is a slightly more grown-up version of Lazy Town. But rather than automatically taking that as an insult like it seems most people did, how about maybe accepting that it might be a testament to its quality? Because now this is on a personal note, I'm betting the majority of, if not 90% of those complainy comments have seen any Precure, let alone Hugtto, and never even planned to give it a chance. Which I find to be a real shame, because you do no favors artificially limiting yourself in the shows you watch. My mean score is like an 8. I think Attack on Titan is good. I think Kimetsu no Yaiba is good. It just so happens that I think Hugtto is just as good, if not better. And almost ironically, I see a lot of the best parts of the other nominees in Hugtto as well. For example, many people adore Vinland Saga for its depiction of a truly morally ambiguous main character in Askeladd. It's a delight when a show is able to have a character do absolutely horrible things, and somehow still have the audience on their side. We're constantly in the dark in regards to his motivations, unpredictable up until the very last moment. And I completely agree that having antagonists you can root for in a series is a major boon. It shows a level of writing skill and care in characterization that is hard to find. However, I find Hugto's villains similarly empathetic. Cryasu, a portmanteau of Kodai meaning darkness and Asu meaning tomorrow, combining to make crisis, form a corporation whose employees serve to impede the Precure at every opportunity. But at the end of the day, their motivations are quite noble. Their goal is to freeze time and place and rob humanity of their tomorrow. Comically evil, I know. But they believe it to be in service of the greater good. Each individual villain the Precure face has seen the harm and suffering that the future possibly brings, their own dreams dashed as their wills succumb more and more to the harsh reality of society. All they want to do is prevent others from suffering in the same way. While quite obviously misguided, this sentiment is hard not to identify with. Life is continually a struggle. It is this premise that Hana and friends are forced to accept, but also try and convince Kryasu that it is worth pursuing true happiness anyway. As such, villains in Hugtto are not treated as monstrous demons whose bloodlust must be stopped at all costs, but rather hurt individuals who need to be shown that there is another way. It is here that Hugtto and another Anime of the Year nominee, Demon Slayer, blend together. One of the most defining traits of Tanjiro is his quizzical compassion towards creatures that others deem abominations. A recurring theme of Kimetsu no Yaiba is the grey nature of life, and that although sometimes one must fight, you can do so with compassion. He acknowledges that very rarely, if at all, do demons wish they were demons. Instead, they often carry very real, very human concerns, whether that be doubting their ability in a past life, or simply just desperately wishing for a family of their own. Likewise, the Hugtto villains suffer from their own relatable worries that often spill forth from them, desperately striving to be heard and understood. And the Precure are there for them. Fortunately, unlike the demons in Kimetsu no Yaiba, they are often in a position to be rehabilitated rather than needing to be beheaded. Hugtto says that there is a strength in femininity, that it is far harder to act with compassion than hatred, but also that nothing in this world worth having comes easy. We can acknowledge that much of life is suffering, but that truth only means we must work harder than ever to support one another. Redemption exists, be you demon or corporate slave, if you just believe in not only us, but in yourself. Believing in yourself isn't limited to what others expect you to be or any so-called lane you fit in. That is one of the major themes of Mob Psycho, but especially its second season. Time and time again, stereotypes are shown to be descriptors rather than definers. Being part of a group or having a particular hobby doesn't say anything about you other than you belong to that group or have that hobby. You determine your own path. If you're a gyaru that likes to write, you can write. Just because you're a so-called delinquent or brawny jock doesn't mean you can't be supportive or have respect for your fellow classmate. And as long as you're earnestly striving to be better and pushing forward, your past atrocities do not define you. You owe it to yourself to push back against those who would lead you astray, but also recognize that there is a seductive siren call in relinquishing the fate of your own future. Instead of chastising others for finally having had enough, we can try to provide them with the tools and support to succeed. Hugto's unceasing catchphrase is, "You can do anything, you can be anything." When asked in an interview, producer Keisuke Naito explains that the two things they wanted to focus on were themes of diversity and self-affirmation. He says, yes, that's right. You can be more confident in yourself. You have more potential within you. You can like yourself more. These are all messages we somehow wanted to convey. And then, the future stretches out in front of you, and you can become anything you want to be. Hugto's cast reinforces the idea that you should love yourself, no matter who you are. They span across a great spectrum, coming from different backgrounds, family situations, and gender identities. When the show says you can do anything, you can be anything, they mean you, regardless of who you are and where you come from. If you're a girl, you can be a hero. If you're a boy, you can wear a dress. If you're either or neither, sometimes you still need to rely on others for protection and support. And that's okay. You're not lesser for needing so. If you want to be a Precure, you can be. We're all in this together. Lastly, Precure operates with a level of genre savviness and understanding of tropes that is hard to find. Those same aspects are why something like Kaguya is consistently praised. Not only is it a rom-com that doesn't rely on meaningless drama and convoluted love dodecahedrons to be engaging, it does so while poking fun at those same shows, and itself. Progression is slow, but there, and no cliche or expectation is free from potentially being exploited or escalated to the point of ridiculous hilarity. I find that Precure also relishes in the cliches and tropes of both the Mahou Shoujo genre, as well as romantic implications. They certainly know how to harness the power of expectation, leading you one way until putting its own spin on it and doing it different from the rest. There is an arc in particular that deals with the subject of one-sided love, through the lens of the Little Mermaid, and it is a fantastic exploration of those feelings and nuances seldom seen in other shows. Hugtto itself is utterly unique, both as a Precure entry as well as a Mahou shoujo. I find it interesting that a main criticism of Hugtto Precure is, I'm not a little girl, so why should I watch a show for one? When it accomplishes so many of what all these shows do, many of which just so happen to be targeted at little boys. I watch anime because it provides a completely unique experience I can't get anywhere else, and for the very fact that it does offer so many varied perspectives. I'm not saying that if you don't like Hugtto, you're wrong, or even necessarily that it deserves Anime of the Year. But is it so bad for it to be really? You think it's so baffling, so incomprehensible for it to be even considered? Rankings are the ultimate matter of taste, and no matter what combination these 10 shows were in, you'd have some people moaning. What's so wrong with celebrating a show that describes the best that humanity can be? That celebrates differences, whether that be your interests, long-term goals, or orientation. That acknowledges that sometimes people make mistakes or get frustrated and can do bad things, but that your worst moments and thoughts don't define who you are. A show that's helmed by Junichi Sato, the wildly renowned quote-unquote father of Mahou shoujo, accompanied by some of the most skilled cinematography, animation, and sound production that I've seen. It's one result of 10, and there's an entire separate ranking for you that has it dead last. Instead of reacting with intense skepticism, disdain, and contempt for an award show that dozens of people worked for free to bring you, how about trying the impossible? Giving it a chance? And if all of that didn't convince you, I'll just leave off on the immortal words of the pedantic romantic.
Y'all sleeping on kids' anime. I told you earlier, it's still true. It hasn't changed.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. It's the best way to support the channel and keeps me relevant in the eyes of the almighty algorithm. If you want to support me further, you can join all these lovely people at my Patreon. Thanks especially to Tal LumBG, Forge Pottery, QuakeGamer69, Ted Marston, Anime? Oh shucks, and Pet Your Lollies More for their support. Tune in a couple days from now for a channel update describing some ideas I had for the future. And of course, if anything I said was wrong, I'm sorry. I must have stuttered.